Hello and welcome back to another episode of Taylor Time. I'm here with Mrs. Woodall on her beautiful blueberry farm, and I have a few questions for you because I'm going to end up picking some blueberries and taking them back home, and so I want to ask you a few questions about your blueberry farm.
Oh, great. Glad you're here, Taylor.
Thank you. When did y'all first start your blueberry farm?
Well, actually, we planted the blueberries over in the field that's behind us here in 1990. So that's been long before you were born. And so they first opened up for pick your own picking in 2005. So we've been pick your own since then. So that's when we started. We had first tried other things on the farm, like cattle, and we had sheep, and then we just decided we needed something that didn't tear down fences and make a mess. So we planted blueberries, and the rest of it we just do for hay.
So I'm sure there's different kinds of blueberries and stuff. So what types of blueberries do you guys have here?
Okay, over across the road behind us we have two varieties, Blue Crop and Blue Ray, and they ripen at about the same time and a little bit later in the season, usually around the 1st of July or late June. And the Blue Crop, they're about the same size, I guess, kind of a larger berry. And over here on this side, back behind the house, we have some smaller bushes, and those are younger, and we have Dukes and Blue Haven back there.
So when is the best time to pick blueberries? Because I'm sure like with different fruits, there's always a better time to get like watermelon or strawberries because they're sweeter. So what's the best time to get them?
Well, they need to be good and ripe. And usually when they start to ripen up, they'll stay on the bush for several days before you want to pick them off. They're good and ripe there, and then they're good for picking for a bunch of days.
So do all the blueberries taste the same? Like, is there a certain blueberry that should be in different baked goods than others? Like,
I don't know about a certain one that should be in baked goods, but they do taste differently. The ones over there, Blue Crop that are in the front have a different flavor than the Blue Ray that are in the back, and you can go in different sections and try that out if you want to. The ones back here, Dukes are different. They have a little bit of a crunch when you bite into them. And the Blue Havens, I think they taste a lot like the Blue Crop berries. All good.
thank you so much, Ms. Woodall, for answering my questions and allowing me to be here. And I'm very excited to use these blueberries. They sound very delicious. So now we can go pick some blueberries. I'm very excited. Very good.
I'm excited, so thank you for allowing me to be here.
Welcome. I'd say I don't really have a specific method for picking the blueberries, but I'd say the easiest way to do it though, just to do it a little faster, is to kind of just look for like the bunches of blueberries and then kind of like pick it and then put them in the bucket and then take out like the ones that aren't ripe or that aren't blue. I think as far as like this little bush right here, like I try to go for like the little clusters, and so when I see these right here, I try to avoid these because these aren't ripe yet, and so I'll just tend to go for the bluer ones that are more ripe.
Taylor, the ones over here seem to be better.
Mom, do you have a method for picking your blueberries, or not really? You just...
Well, no, not really. I mean, I'm just looking for the ones that are ripe, like you said, and just grabbing them. But this is awesome, a wonderful experience.
Yes.
I never thought I would be on a blueberry farm.
With these blueberries, I think I could make like some blueberry muffins or something. Like, I feel like the smaller, more tart blueberries, they would be more for like a jam and like a cake or something, because like it's kind of good to have your jam a little bit tart, so that way the sweetness doesn't like clash with the buttercream and the cake and make it too sweet. But then like the bigger ones, I'd say those would go better in stuff like muffins or like a blueberry cake, because it adds blueberry flavor, but then it also adds like a little extra sweetness. I'm gonna dump these in here.
Okay.
All right.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of blueberries to make that blueberry dessert.
Yes, and maybe something to snack on too.
Yes.
Smaller ones are a little more tart, and the bigger ones might be sweeter. Not sure. Is it good?
I don't even like blueberries.
It's good. I got a sweet one. I think the ones over here, they're a lot sweeter and they're more juicy. Like, I can tell from like picking the ones over here, they're like a lot softer too. As far as those over there, they're like a little bit more firm, so they're more tart. And they're fresh off the tree. Yes. And you get a better price for these, which is really nice.
What a productive day, Taylor.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Yes.
I'm excited to go home and wash these blueberries and eat
Bake
some.
them. Yes, eat and bake.
Yes, eat and bake.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I enjoy this with you.
Thank you. All right, so we've picked a lot of blueberries, and thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
It's been fun to have you here, Taylor.
Thank you. And so, where can people find you? Like on Facebook or?
Yes, we are on Facebook, Woodall Blueberries, and we're also have a blog that's woodallblueberries.blogspot.com. You can find us there.
And you can come pick a lot of blueberries like I did and my mom. And so with the blueberries that we got, I'll see you guys back in the kitchen. All right, so we're back from Woodall's Blueberries, and here we have our big bold blueberries that we picked, and they look super fresh and super delicious. So for this episode, I decided to kind of make like a throwback to when I was on season 7 of Kids Baking Championship, and I actually made a blueberry donut cake. So now here in 2022, we're gonna recreate that 3 years later, and we're gonna kind of, add our spin by adding our fresh blueberries this time. All right, so we can start with our batter for our blueberry donut cake. And so I'm gonna show you guys how I like to turn like a regular vanilla cake recipe into like a fruit recipe. Like if I were to make it a strawberry cake or a lemon cake, or in this case, a blueberry cake. So let's get started. In my stand mixer, I'm gonna start with my butter. And then I can go ahead and also add my sugar. Woo, it's going everywhere. Okay, got a big sugar cloud everywhere. All right. Now, I'm gonna give that a good mix on about medium to high speed. All right, so once that's pretty much mixed up, not all the way, but somewhat mixed up, we're gonna end up adding our vanilla bean paste and our blueberry extract. So usually you can find different extracts of basically any flavor really. I mean, there's caramel, there's blueberry in this case, there's lemon, strawberry, I mean, anything you can think of. So I'm gonna be using that. And then my vanilla bean paste is basically, well, okay, so you can use vanilla extract, but vanilla bean paste, it's basically like just using vanilla beans, except it's in a paste and it's easier to use, so you don't have to cut the vanilla bean open and scrape out all the seeds. It's just a lot easier. So I'm gonna add both of these to my mixture. And now, what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna take some purple and some blue gel food coloring, and I'm gonna mix this up. And even though we get kind of a blueberry color from our extract, we wanna make it, we wanna make it known that it's blueberry. So we want it to have a pretty vibrant color, kind of like if I were to be making a strawberry cake. Yes, the strawberries do add some color, but it's always good to give it that extra punch of color, so when you look at it, you know it's a blueberry cake. Add just a little bit to begin with. And I'm gonna scrape down the sides to make sure we get everything, whoops, nice and incorporated. All right. And give this a good mix. All right, and so once we have that mixed up, I can go ahead and crack my eggs. And some people like to crack their eggs directly into the bowl, but I like to crack them into another bowl or another cup just to make sure there's no eggshells at all, because even when you crack them into the bowl and you don't see anything go in, there's usually small little pieces that sneak into the bowl and someone ends up with eggshell in their cake. So you don't want that. You want to be super precautious. All right, so I have my eggs cracked and I'm gonna add them in one at a time just to ensure they're mixed in well. All right, and I can add my second egg. And while that's mixing, we can go ahead and prepare our flour mixture. Just to kind of get a few things done at once. So here I have my flour. This is just all-purpose flour. And in here I have my baking soda. And in here I have my baking powder and my salt. And if you remember from our first season of Taylor Thyme, I explained the difference between baking soda and baking powder. Baking soda reacts to acids and baking powder reacts to heat. So this is perfect for a cake like this. I'm gonna add that in. And give this a good mix. And we can go ahead and scrape down the sides of our bowl. So now I'm gonna scrape down the sides of my bowl again once both of my eggs are in there. And it's really important that you do this rather than waiting until the end, because then you get different chunks of sugar in there and flour, and you want it to be all one smooth mixture. So this is gonna help to do that. I'm gonna turn this back on to about low. And now we can start with our blueberry mixture that's gonna go in here as well. So I have my blender, and then I'm gonna take some of my blueberries and add it into here. We're basically gonna be adding like a blueberry puree to our batter, so you can really taste like the good fresh blueberries. You always wanna add the real thing to your cake whenever you're making, whether it's chocolate cake or vanilla cake, real vanilla bean paste, or strawberries or lemon or anything like that. All right, I'm gonna end up adding just a little bit of my milk just to soften up the mixture a little bit and make it easier to blend. All right, so it looks good. That was quick and easy. And it's much easier to use a blender rather than like using a fork and mashing it, which works too, but this is always the easier way. All right. Now I'm gonna add this back to here. Give this a quick stir. Right, and so I'm gonna end up alternating my flour mixture with my blueberry milk mixture. This is gonna help us get a smooth texture, so I'm gonna add some of my flour. Give this a good mix. And now, add my blueberry mixture. And now we can add our last bit of flour. There we go. And I'm gonna clean up a little bit. My parents will be proud of me for doing this. And it makes it a lot easier to bake when you have a clean surface. But you know, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of baker who just like, especially if I'm doing like an order, like the area is messy. I have buttercream over here, fondant, just everywhere. Powdered sugar everywhere for sure. So I'm gonna do myself and my parents a favor and just straighten it up a little bit. All right, so the next step to completing our cake is we're gonna be making like a blueberry compote kind of jam mixture. And so this is what I like to do with a lot of fruits. And I like to add this to my buttercream or to soak into my cake. So to start, it's super simple. I'm gonna end up adding some of my blueberries into my saucepan. You can also use a pot as well, but usually using a pan will make it go a lot quicker. And it's always good to save some time in the kitchen. So I have my blueberries in there, and then in here I have some lemon juice, and I also have some water, and then I also have some lemon extract. And the lemon is basically gonna kind of add the acidity back to the fruit. It's gonna help to balance out the sugar that we end up adding so it's not too sweet in the combination with the cake and the buttercream. And so this is gonna make it super delicious. All right, I'm gonna add some of this. And basically all the water does is it just helps to add moisture to the blueberries so it cooks down a lot easier and it starts to boil slowly rather than just like burning on the pan. So the water is definitely crucial. And now I can end up adding my sugar. I'm gonna add a little bit to begin with. But what you wanna do with mixtures like these is you wanna mix it down, wait till it gets cooked together, and then taste it. See if it needs more lemon juice, if it's too sweet, or if it needs more sugar, and then you add more sugar or lemon juice. Rather than just dumping a bunch in at one time, you kind of want to taste it and see how it goes and just take it slowly. That's how you're going to get the best mixture possible. So you just want to put this on the heat on about medium-high for maybe about 5 to 7 minutes until it gets nice and cooked down and the blueberries are broken apart and the mixture is simmering, not boiling, but simmering. You want to make sure it doesn't burn. And once it tastes good and it's not too sweet or too tart, you can take it off, strain the blueberries from the blueberry mixture and let it cool down completely. All right, so our next step is to make our buttercream, well, basically like our glaze for our donuts. So this is actually here some cream cheese buttercream that I whipped up earlier. And this is the liquid from my blueberry compote, my blueberry jam. And so I'm gonna end up adding this into my mixture. It's gonna help to soften it up and flavor it up really, really nicely. And now these are the blueberries that I strained from the mixture that are left over. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of this, just to get some kind of like blueberry chunks in there. Just like you see like a strawberry cake, you have like the strawberry chunks, and you want it to look super authentic. So I'm gonna take a whisk and just whisk this all together. All right, and the consistency you want for this, just so you know how much of the blueberry liquid to add, is you want it to be soft enough to kind of drip a little bit and make it kind of look like it was just drizzled or your donut was dipped into the glaze, but you don't want it to be so liquidy to where the cake actually soaks the mixture in and you won't be able to really see the nice blueberry frosting on top. So you want it to be kind of in the middle. I think this is a pretty good texture. It's soft enough to where the cake, like it can drip all over the cake, but it won't completely soak into the cake. Because you do have to remember that cake is a sponge, so any liquids is gonna soak right up. Right, so here's our next component to our donut cake. And so this is basically just gonna be like a little cream cheese glizzle, a cream cheese drizzle we add to the top. And so I'm gonna end up softening this mixture as well with just a little bit of milk. I'm gonna add a little bit at a time because we want it to be able to, drizzle, but we don't want it to kind of, I guess, melt into our buttercream. All right, I'm gonna add just a little more milk. It should be good. Perfect, okay. So you can see it kind of drizzles a little bit. There we go, all right. All right, so our last step before we can start actually assembling this cake and seeing it come together is to make our little cake pop balls to go on top of the cake. So I actually did this in the episode, so I'm trying to recreate it and make it look as similar as possible. So here I have a small little cake I baked. It's the exact same blueberry cake, except it's just whatever leftover batter I didn't use in my donut pan. So I'm gonna add some of this to my bowl. Oops. And now make sure you have clean hands for this, because usually it's easier to just go in with your hands, or you can use a food processor. That's also nice, but there's also more dishes to wash, and you have your hands right here, so it's the easiest thing to do. So I just like to wash my hands and then just go in and break up the big pieces of cake and kind of crumble it. So to make our little cake pop balls, I have a little tray here, and I'm gonna take just a little bit of my buttercream. I'm gonna take just a little bit at a time, because it's better to add too little than to add too much, because it's hard to go back and you have to add more cake and just go back and forth. But when you do just a little bit at a time, it makes it a lot easier. So take this, a good mix. Okay. All right, so we have our cake pop mixture ready, and the kind of consistency that you're looking for is basically a mixture that when you press it together, it sticks together really well, but when you let go, it doesn't kind of like crumble and fall apart or kind of like melt in your hands, because that means you either added too much icing or you didn't add enough. So this is a good texture right here. And so I'm just gonna take some of the mixture in my hands and roll it into a ball. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is the great part about this. And put this onto my tray. And I'm just gonna do different sizes. I'm gonna do some medium, some big, some small. All right, so our cake pops are done. We have our different sizes and they look amazing. And if your cake pops are a little bit on the soft side, you can pop them into the fridge or the freezer for a little bit, just to harden a little bit and get a little less soft so they don't fall apart on our cake. Or if they're good and they look perfect and they're keeping their shape, they're keeping their form, you can just leave them out until we're ready to top them onto our cake. Now that this cake is finished, I actually want to mention something that's super funny and super cool about this cake, is that actually for this episode, I didn't quite know what I wanted to make. I hadn't made up my mind, but what's funny about this is that I actually got the idea to do this from a dream I had. So I had a dream, I was filming an episode and I was recreating my season 7 blueberry donut cake. So I woke up and I was like, hey, why not actually do this in real life? Like, it's an amazing idea to recreate it, and it's a really delicious cake. So I was like, you know what, why not? Let's do it. And so here we are, and it wouldn't be a Taylor Time episode without actually trying our creation. So I am super excited to try this. I'm just gonna cut into it and make sure to get some of these blueberries over here. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Ooh. That looks delicious. All right, let's try this cake. I'm gonna make sure to get some of the blueberry compote and the icing and the cake, of course, and a blueberry. Gotta get it all. All right. That is good. This is delicious. Oh yeah. That's probably one of my favorite cakes I've made on here. It's super delicious. It's fresh, it's not too sweet, it's not too tart. It's perfect, has a perfect balance of flavors, and thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you recreate this cake at home because it's really good. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.